Hello everyone, my name is Jacob Snow, and today I'm going to be talking to you about jobs that are available in the field of public history. Now, for many of us, myself especially, I struggle with understanding what public history was the first time I heard about it in my master's degree. The definition of public history is the use of historians and the application of the historical method outside of academia in both the public and private sphere. Public history is history for the rest of us. In other words, it's the face of history. While historians at the academic level have access to sources and material available not necessarily to the public history are things such as museums, public and state archives, and experiences, as well as national parks that provide us with an understanding of what things were like in the past. Examples include, but are not limited to, your local town museum explaining what life was like in your town early on, Colonial Williamsburg, the Colonial Williamsburg experience, and your state archive. Although your state archive is more of a blending of public and academic history. Jobs in the public history field, therefore, are jobs that are related to public history, as one would expect. One of the most obvious jobs in the field of public history is the job of a tour guide. This is as close to entry level as one can get without being labeled a secretary or assistant. Guiding individuals through the exhibits is a very important job and requires energy. It requires charisma. It requires knowledge of what you are talking about. If you do not have this basic knowledge of the exhibits, it will show to the people that you are attempting to instruct about the history of what you're talking about. However, the job of a tour guide is more nuanced than that, which is why it's a difficult job to quantify. Because just being a tour guide doesn't mean that all you do is showcase the exhibits. For instance, when I was completing my public history assignment in this class, I went to the Thomas J. Boyd Museum in Wytheville, Virginia, and the guide that we had on hand for this experience was assisting in the renovation and maneuvering of the exhibits as they worked toward taking advantage of the COVID pandemic to redecorate, redesign, and make a new forward facing feel for the museum. This includes, but is not limited to, changing which exhibits are on display and creating interactive exhibits that have been proven popular in other museums. The basic requirements for this kind of job are physical endurance. You're going to be standing up for long periods of time. A basic knowledge of the exhibits, although an advanced knowledge is optimal, it's not necessary. You can learn more as you work at the job. Clear communication skills are paramount of importance as you are describing to the public what these things were, and the knowledge that they take away from you is often the knowledge that they will be spreading to their friends and family. Energy and charisma are also required in the tour guide field, as is evidenced in any number of job applications that you would fill out for such a position. Another type of public history job is archivist work. Now, again, as I said, archivists and archival history are a blending of public and scholarly history. Simply because there are some things in archives that only members of the scholarly community at a certain level have access to, due to the care required of the things you are looking at, such as source documents or journals dating back to the 18 to 1700s. You can't just let anyone look at these because they might not be as careful as they should be. Just being careful with such a document isn't even enough. There are special, specific steps that have to be taken to make sure of the document's continued survival. But other than that, archivist work includes but is not limited to the digitization of archived materials, which can include either scanning or copying down into a Word document. And they also include, but are not limited to, arrangement and access to the archives and, maintenance of the documents. The most public facing of the archivist jobs is both the person who is at the counter bringing you the documents or alerting you as to where they are located, and the digitizer, the person who puts the archival material on the internet, allowing access to the public. During the COVID pandemic, those people became very important as school assignments and other research requires access to these materials, but the archives themselves were closed due to the sickness. Archivist work also requires physical endurance, but not quite the same as is required of a tour guide or museum faculty. Archivists will be sitting for the same rough period of time that tour guides and museum faculty will be standing, usually hunched over a document or trying to scan a document or typing frantically as you try to interpret the handwriting of an individual from over 200 years ago. It's a difficult task. The base requirements for most archivist jobs are physical endurance, historical knowledge on a more advanced level than what is required of the tour guide. You need to understand what you are doing, what you are speaking about, and that your primary purpose is not interpretation of the document, but transcription of the document. Clear communication skills are paramount, as are a keen eye and a sharp mind regarding the material. If you do not understand how to read cursive, this job is not for you. And if you don't understand how to work a scanner or hand scanner, tower scanner, whatever type of scanner they have, this job is not for you. Option 3 is probably one of my favorites, and that's the curatorial work. You're the person who gets the things for both of the previously mentioned jobs. The curations department, if you will. There's a curations department for archives, for museums, for Colonial Williamsburg. Your job is to find things that may have historical significance, assess them, and if they have the significance you are looking for, then you retrieve them. You pay for them with the funding of the institution that you work for, and you bring them back, repairing them as needed, although that part of the job is a little less focused upon, as oftentimes the historicity of an item is the fact that it has not been restored. It depends on where it's going to be used. If it's going to be used for a museum, it needs to be in decent enough condition that it can be displayed as is. You're not going to want to completely remaster it because that takes away some of the historic value. However, for something such as Colonial Williamsburg, which is one of the first curational jobs I saw, it's going to need to be in basically good shape, but it will also be with the understanding that it can be fixed up, as people, the public, are not just going to be looking at it from behind glass. Oftentimes there will be actual interaction with the object. So, curational work is fun, it is fascinating, it is something that sounds like it would be enjoyable to do. However, the jobs that we have looked at so far, it has some of the most rigorous requirements. You need to have business acumen. You need to have advanced knowledge of antiques. You need to have an understanding of what exhibits your location that you are working for are needed. For instance, if you're working at a museum, a document can be good, but if you're working for an archive, a chair probably isn't what you're looking for. Physical endurance and strength. You're going to be standing up a lot. You're going to be moving a lot of heavy things depending on the location that you're working for. And as you climb the ranks of curational work, management skills are also required, because at the entry level for this job, there are curational assistants. They will be working under a manager, someone who is telling them how to do what they need to do. The base requirement is the ability to lift 35 or more pounds, based upon the jobs linked in the description. Option 4 is the business side of things. Now, these are more your standard line of work, such as accountants, secretaries, managers, public relations officials. These are the people that arrange galas, that arrange fundraisers. They are the backbone of public history, even though a lot of what they do is not, in fact, public history. But public history would not be possible without these individuals, and as such, they warrant a mention, and they're very important to the task. Public history jobs are on the increase as it becomes more apparent. However, that increase has been slowed by COVID-19. If you are interested in a job in the public history field, simply look up public history jobs on your favorite job searcher, be it Google or LinkedIn or Glassdoor, and you will find a rather impressive list of jobs that are in the public history field. My name is Jacob Snow. I hope you have a fantastic week and many safe travels.